Tell us about Kris Richard.
This is a awesome hire, and it is official. It is 4 stars. He is the new defensive backs coach and passing game coordinator. So he kind of takes over for Matt Eberflus in that regard, where he's going to be actively involved in the back end of the defense in that passing game. This is a home run hire by the Cowboys. To get a guy with defensive coordinator experience, to bring him in and bring in some new blood and some young, talented blood is a great move. Look, Richard had head coaching interviews this offseason. He had one with the Indianapolis Colts. This is as good as they come on the hire side. A great hire. There will be some buzz about whether or not he can end up being the coordinator in waiting, but I don't know if that's the route the Cowboys take if we see some changes with the head coaching next year. But in terms of as they sit right now, this is a brilliant hire by the Dallas Cowboys, and I love this. This is an easy A for me on the hiring side. Yeah,
Tom, I've seen a lot of comments flowing through. Appreciate all the comments that are happening. Good one here from Stanley Cook. What's a passing game coordinator do?
So the passing game coordinator, if you're familiar with the offensive side of the ball, and it goes both ways in the end, he is going to be more involved in setting up some of the defensive schemes when it comes to stopping the pass, so that like running the dime packages. Richard's going to have a lot of input on that. He is going to be actively involved in the back 7 and setting up the coverages. I think that maybe that's the best way to describe it, as setting up the coverages and going when the Cowboys use more defensive backs and they try to stop the pass in particular.
We'll get to your guys' other comments as well. If you guys have questions, definitely hit us up here in the comments. Saw a lot of places where you guys are watching from. I saw it in Antarctica, Tom.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
awesome.
How about that?
One more note for you, Stanley. Think of passing game coordinator as the number 2 to the defensive coordinator.
Assistant to the defensive coordinator.
Okay.
All right, hey, we're throwing out a lot of stars. What do these stars mean? Here's our rumor meter here on the Cowboys Report. 0 stars. It's fake news. Eagles Super Bowl rings. Tom, if we have to change it, I am going to be upset.
The good news is I think if we do change it, we'll let you guys decide what it is.
We'll let you guys pick what 0 stars fake news means if the Eagles do happen to break our hearts and win the Super Bowl. All right, 1 star, there is a small shred of truth. 2 stars, people are talking. 3 stars, it's pretty likely. And then 4 stars, it's a fact. Dez caught it. Let's get into rumor number 2. And it's really news here, Tom. Rod Marinelli, he is returning. That is 4 stars.
He is back. He is going to be the defensive coordinator for at least 1 more year. I don't know how long Marinelli will remain the DC. He is kind of getting up there in age. He's at the point where it's like, hey, I don't know how much longer I want to keep doing this and going through the grind that is being a coach, especially a high-profile one. Jerry Jones confirmed this down at the Senior Bowl because Jones is there. We'll talk about the coaches. They're not there, but I like this move. I'm a big fan of Marinelli. Maybe he's not the world's greatest defensive coordinator, but he is one hell of a D-line coach. And the Cowboys' defense, when they had Sean Lee, was actually really good last year.
Yeah, really good. All right, Kellen Moore, he's coming in as the quarterback's coach. We've talked about this for several weeks. It's now been confirmed more or less by Jerry.
It's not pen to paper signed, but it's
Which is weird. Just do it already.
But it's like, yeah, we're going to sign him. It's like they're working out, I don't know, the contract, whatever it is. This is a through and through Scott Linehan desired promotion because, as we've mentioned really for years now, Brett, Kellen Moore is going to be a great quarterback's coach. Not a great quarterback, but he's very intelligent. He was instrumental in kind of prepping some of the game plans. This is a good hire for the Cowboys. I know not everyone likes it because, well, Moore was not a good quarterback, but he is going to be a really good coach for the Dallas Cowboys.
Go ahead and get those reactions in here. Hartford, A grade on the hiring of Kellen Moore. B for is the wow face. Laughy face is a C. And just give us a like if you don't know and don't really have that much of an opinion of a quarterback's coach.
Oh, well, positional coaches are tough. How much impact do they actually have? And in the end, I think this is still going to be the Linehan system and having him have the most input. But Kellen Moore, and I know the Cowboys feel this way, they think he is a rising star in the coaching ranks. That's why you see him. Look, the Cowboys could give him a futures deal, have him come back for another year and try and play. He's like, you know what, I'm going to go be a coach. And at this age, you don't often see that.
Yeah, I mean, at that age, he could become an offensive coordinator pretty quickly and be one of the youngest coaches in the NFL.
He absolutely could.
If he turns out to be a good coach.
If things go right. We'll see.
All right, number 4 on the news and rumors roundup, Marc Colombo. What's his deal in terms of tight end coach, Tom? That is an open position.
Yeah, so it's open position and he interviewed for it.
Yep.
And I'm kind of surprised that he interviewed because, yeah, there's some connection between the offensive line and tight ends. You know, there's the blocking involved and all that. But he wasn't a tight end. And maybe this is just me kind of picturing ahead here. Like when Jason Witten retires, I want him as the tight ends coach. So I don't want to hire another former player. I would rather hire an older guy, kind of like they've been doing. That okay, we'll bring you in as like a stopgap, and then once Jason's good to go, he's our new tight ends coach. Like, that's just me thinking.
Yeah, but I mean, who's to say Jason Witten even wants to be a tight ends coach or a coach at all?
Well, do you remember the crazy story of Jason Witten in the Tennessee job at one point?
Talk about fake news.
We didn't have the rumor meter for that point. It would have been perfect because that would have been fake news.
Yeah,
that he was going to leave. He was going to retire mid-year to go be the Tennessee head coach.
That's right. All right, I'm seeing a lot of comments coming in about Jason Garrett, whether or not he's on the hot seat. Let's talk about it here. Is he on the hot seat? Is he not on the hot seat? Jerry came out this week, said he's not on the hot seat going into 2018.
If you listen and you take the word of Jerry Jones as gospel, he's not on the hot seat.
What's Jerry going to say, though? He didn't fire him this year. So, I mean, you got to give him the vote of confidence, right?
I was so tempted to just make this fake news. But I didn't think it was a good idea to accuse the Cowboys owner of being fake news. So I went with 1 star. But here's the deal.
Hey, we accuse our president of being fake news all the time, so what's wrong with doing it with Jerry?
It's a good point.
I bet people in the comments, if they wanted to, would probably say Jerry is fake news a lot of times.
It's a good point, to be fair. But look, I also don't believe Jerry at all. Like, Jerry is not being honest here. And I think Jerry will say, well, he's not on my hot seat because we're going to make the playoffs. But if the Cowboys miss the playoffs again, Garrett's not coming back.
Yep.
Unless there's some crazy scenario where everyone gets hurt, he's not coming back. Now, if they make the playoffs, I think he's safe. But if the Cowboys miss the playoffs again next year, I don't see how that Jerry Jones will keep Jason Garrett because he's going to be really upset missing the playoffs in back-to-back years with a team that should be ready to win now.
Yeah, this team should be ready to win now. All right, Tom, I think we're going to talk about it plenty.
Yes, we are.
This offseason, we're going to talk about it plenty in 2018. Whether or not Jason Garrett can get it turned around again and get into that 10-11 win range that gets him into the playoffs. Let's go to a comment here from John. Garrett is Jerry Jones' puppet, that's why.
Jerry does like Jason a lot because Jason says yes, sir, quite a bit. Puppet, I understand here.
This is certainly something that gets brought up quite a bit in terms of whether or not that's why Jason Garrett is the head coach.
I would prefer not the term puppet, but how about the term yes man?
Sure.
I think that might be just a little bit accurate and more fair. But I do get what you're saying.
All right, Steve, what has he done? Nothing. 9 years of nothing.
He won a playoff game.
He won a playoff game, been in the playoffs.
We're on the same page here, Steve.
Yeah. It's tough. I mean, this is what it's like to be a Cowboys fan at this stage in the game. It has been over 20 years since the Cowboys have been to the Super Bowl. Let's talk about this. Cowboys have been were last in the Super Bowl in 1995. It's 2017. It'll be at least 23 years, assuming they make it back to the Super Bowl next year, which, come on. And so the Giants have won 2 Super Bowl rings. The Eagles have been to the Super Bowl twice. Well, unfortunately, the Redskins are no good. So that's the NFC East. All right, let's get back to the news and rumors roundup. Number 6 here, the Cowboys coaches are not at the Senior Bowl this week. Tom, does that really matter?
Well, yes and no. It's news to me because they always go.
Yeah.
Like, they have always been in the Senior Bowl, and they've been in the scenario where they've actually coached the Senior Bowl, and they are always there. And then this year, now they're not. They're not at the Senior Bowl, and it's strange for me to see that because Jerry Jones said, look, they're going to go evaluate last year and evaluate the other teams, and we're going to start the process of putting in the changes we're going to make. But they can do that in other years and still be at the Senior Bowl. So I'm trying to figure out why. A couple different reasons. One, the team trusts the scouts to get the guys that fit the coach's system. And 2, maybe guys like Linehan and Marinelli aren't going to get as much input as we saw last year. Look, Taco Charlton through and through was a Marinelli preference pick. Mm-hmm. Maybe you won't do that as similar this year, which I think would bode well for my draft crush Vita Vea to be selected because he's not a Marinelli guy, but he's a talent of the top 20 pick.
All right, let's move on here. News and rumor number 7. In terms of DeMarcus Lawrence, he is a free agent. Can the Cowboys get a long-term deal done? And then, more appropriately, do they want to?
More in terms of do they want one? Yeah, 4 stars, and that's kind of like of course they want a long-term deal done for DeMarcus Lawrence. And
you do see sometimes teams shy away from these franchise tag type of players.
It's true.
In terms of the long-term deal because. Look, DeMarcus Lawrence has had injury issues. Mm-hmm. He hasn't been on the field a ton throughout his career. The franchise tag could make a lot more sense, and then you move on and play the game that the Washington Redskins have played with Kirk Cousins.
And I don't want to play that game with Kirk Cousins, though. And I think with DeMarcus Lawrence, this is what the Cowboys thought he could be when they drafted him. And now that they've seen him do it for a full year, and that was maybe an issue we'll get to another guy here in a minute, he's done it for a full year. They want to get him locked up. Jerry Jones was very vocal at the beginning of this year saying, I want a war daddy. I want a dynamite defensive end who's going to get to the passer. That's what Tank was this year. So it's no surprise that they want a long-term contract. They could still franchise tag him and then work out a deal. That's more or less what Steven said this week. But I would be surprised if when we start week 1, DeMarcus Lawrence does not have that long-term contract.
Yeah, Steven did a lot of talking to the Fort Worth Star-Telegram. A lot of stuff to say, doing some contract negotiations through the media. But he did say first goal is to sign him to a long-term deal. And they're certainly going to roll up their sleeves and see if they can do something without DeMarcus having to sign the franchise tag. So, Cowboys fans, DeMarcus Lawrence will be a Cowboy next year. Whether or not he is on a long-term deal or on a one-year franchise tag remains to be seen. All right, let's move on. Sticking on the defensive line, how about David Irving? Doesn't sound like the Cowboys are getting a long-term deal done with Irving.
I mean, Stephen Jones basically came out and said, we're not going to get a long-term deal done with David. And
they don't really have to either.
This whole scenario, it was a weird burp cough hybrid, excuse me. This whole situation is weird to me. Like, David Irving was really good for the Cowboys, and there's the reports that they're going to use only a second-round tender on him and risk losing him, and I don't really get why. Like, we know what David Irving can be. I suppose I get the side of, you want to see him play for a full year, but I kind of get the vibe that the Cowboys don't trust David Irving at all. And I think they're almost hoping, oh man, let's just get a second-round tender and let's just kind of almost move on from him. And that's really weird for me because he was really good. Like, he racked up sacks. I know he's not great against the run, but why wouldn't you spend a first-round tender and say, yeah, we're going to keep him, we're going to see if he plays the full year, and then go from there? By putting a second-round tender on him, you're asking teams, hey, come take him. Like, we'll allow him to leave, and we'll take the draft pick. It's just there is more going on between the Cowboys and David Irving than I think has been fully reported in the press and in the media.
Yeah, so David Irving, of course, missed the first 4 games last year due to a suspension, then missed several games due to a concussion at the end of the year. There is certainly something more to this story and whether or not the Cowboys can get something done. Comment here from Jeremy, unless Irving gives us a discount, I don't see him staying.
And I think that's kind of the overall point when it comes to this year's particular contract negotiations. David Irving wants to be paid like his max ability, which is the absurd little run he went on when he was healthy. The Cowboys are like, look, we haven't seen you stay healthy. We're not going to give you that, and we're going to give you what ends up being a low ball offer from Irving's perspective. So this is a situation where you'll see Irving play under the RFA tag, but why wouldn't it be a first-round tender? That's where I'm having the disconnect with.
All right, let's move on here. Number 9. Okay. We talked about this last week, Byron Jones.
I had to put this in, I had to do it.
Lots of comments. Is Byron Jones fast?
Yeah,
so
he is.
That's what we say. Comments, it was no. He's not fast. You know what? It's fake news. He is fast.
Yeah. Look, we have the data to back it up here. Per the New York Times.
We got you here, guys. We love you, but we got you.
Per the New York Times, Byron Jones was clocked.
Wait, the New York Times, though, isn't it fake news?
No, not when it comes to sports.
Oh, okay, cool.
See? Anyway, Byron Jones was clocked as the fastest NFL player this year, hitting above 22 miles per hour. Now, I know that maybe guys like Tyreek Hill didn't have to reach that peak speed, but when
Tyreek Hill's so fast that he never
speed. But when you clock at 22 miles per hour, you are fast.
Yes.
Like, and this is not like me running in the neighborhood street when they have the slow down speedometer thing and a car goes by and you're clocked to like 25. You're like, oh yeah, see, I'm that fast. No, this is actual 22.
Today are perfect.
Thank you. Oh, I did that as a kid too, so it's fine. But with Byron Jones is a freaky fast athlete. I also know that he holds the world record for longest broad jump. He set that at the combine. He is a freak athlete.
Why isn't he in the Olympics?
Because football pays more.
Well, that's true.
Yeah, dude, he's unreal.
All right.
He is fast.
So, guys.
No more telling me otherwise.
Guys, we did some digging after you guys said he wasn't fast last week, so we found it. He is fast. It's there.
And
he's fast.
And this is not just track speed, it's also pad speed.
Yeah, it's football speed. He clocked as the fastest NFL player during a game this season. All right, let's move on. Number 10 here, Dez Bryant. He's a distraction, Tom, according to Stephen Jones.
Well, which Jones do you want to listen to? Do you want to listen to Stephen, where he is a distraction, or Jerry, where he's like basically saying, I love Dez. I love Lamp. I love Dez. Like, so I'm giving it 3 stars because I tend to lean towards Stephen Jones. I don't know if Dez is really a distraction to his teammates, but we always talk about his sideline antics. So I don't think it's black and white, but I do think it leans more toward, he's a bit of a distraction because he gets really passionate on the sidelines and the cameras always capture it.
Yeah, and it's not fair to Dez either in terms of the media's insistence. I'd say the national broadcast partners' insistence on showing Dez's antics on the sideline. So, all right, Tom, Dez is due a lot of money. He's not performing to that contract.
He's not.
He is a cut candidate. Cowboys can save how much if they were to cut him?
It's $8 million if they cut him outright, $12.5 if they wait till after June 1st, which is probably the best way to go about doing it.
So we've seen a lot of comments. We've discussed whether or not the Cowboys should cut Dez Bryant. Here's my take. I don't think they should. And I don't think it makes sense for them to cut him in 2018 and save that money and get nothing in return. The most amount of savings is going to come with a post-June 1 cut out of Dez Bryant's contract. And so if they were to do it, it's past free agency, it's past the draft, the Cowboys wouldn't have anybody there to replace him and therefore play as that wide receiver 1. Let's not talk about Bryce Butler being wide receiver 1. Come on, guys, he's not. So if the Cowboys were to cut Dez, they're sitting there without a wide receiver 1. This team is set up to win. This team should be in the playoffs next year, and if you get rid of Dez, you don't have a wide receiver 1 to try and make that run. So certainly get your guys' comments in on whether or not you think Dez Bryant is a distraction or whether or not you think the Cowboys should cut him, but that's my take. Cowboys should not cut Dez because this team is set up to win, and if you get rid of Dez in 2018, you're without a key target for Dak Prescott.
And I think the bigger issue for the Cowboys wide receiver core is that Dez really has no help. Look, I love Jason Witten, but Witten does not get double teams. Like he is a reliable target, but he's not a guy that defenses truly fear. That's how he always gets open. Terrence Williams, well, I think the commenters and us are in agreement. He's not very good. Bryce Butler, also not that good. He actually had a higher percentage of drops than Dez Bryant did. So I know we hate Dez's drops. You would hate Bryce Butler if he played a lot more. And Cole Beasley was not the same player. The Cowboys truly lack a real good number 2 wide receiver, which is why, by the way, I think the Cowboys keep Dez, but in round 2 or 3 at the worst case, I think they target a wide receiver.
Let's talk about some of those draftable wide receivers. Christopher asking about James Washington.
I like Washington. Look, I don't know what his best trait is, but I do know he is really, really productive, and I'm not going to just ignore that production. I don't know if he's there in round 2 for the Dallas Cowboys, but if he is, I think he'd be a really, really good fit.
Hey, Pete, you think the Browns give up the number 4 pick so the Cowboys could go up?
That'd be nice.
All right, Michael here saying Romo made Dez.
I don't know if Romo made Dez, but I think Romo was a much better fit with Dez. And I think of one play in particular, I've mentioned a lot, Brett, that back shoulder fade. That may have been Romo's best throw. Like, of all the throws Tono can make outside of the spinning away from pressure and throwing it off balance, that was Romo's best throw. That's not Dak's best throw, and I think you've seen it with the way the Cowboys use their red zone offense. They don't use that back shoulder fade all that much. They now like to use the slant across the middle with Dez in the red zone, and it does work. Get it up high, let Dez go get it. The chemistry isn't quite there between Dak and Dez, and I think the scheme does play a big factor in that.
Dora doesn't like your comment about Jason Witten.
I love Jason. Jason is a first ballot Hall of Famer, but let's not pretend that he's still prime Jason Witten. He's still a reliable tight end, but he is not a Jimmy Graham and over-the-middle threat anymore. That's not who he is.
All right, whether or not the Cowboys could address the Dez issue in the draft or in free agency, we will talk more about that. We have got the top free agent targets the Cowboys could look at this offseason coming up right after 2 more news and rumors items. First up here, number 11, Zeke. He was a distraction last year. Yeah.
Well, duh.
4 stars.
Steven came out and
said
it again. Yeah, I think we're all in agreement.
Steven had a lot to say this week.
And he was very talkative. Normally Jerry handles all this. I think they're giving Steven a little bit more media power.
Well, I like that, though.
Yeah, well, I like Stephen Jones a lot. I think he's a little bit more measured than Jerry's at times,
Yep.
and the Johnny Manziel situation, which thank God for Steven. Well, when it comes to Zeke, there's no way it wasn't a distraction, and I think it's naive to say it wasn't, because every week it was, shit, is Zeke going to play this week?
Yeah.
That weighs a lot on Zeke and on the team as a whole.
I felt like it weighed on the team really early in the season.
It definitely did.
That Denver game, for example. Ugh. All right. One more here. Kavon Frazier, he had some knee surgery.
And it wasn't major knee surgery. This was more of a cleanup procedure. There's something minor wrong with the knee. Let's just go in. We'll clean it up, whether it be draining the fluid, whatever. He's going to be fine. This is not anything to be concerned about, but yes, he underwent surgery. He'll be back again next year as the potential in-box safety who will get plenty of playing time and do very well on special teams as well. So Frazier's going to be fine, but yes, he underwent knee surgery in the offseason.